As Canada gears up for the next federal election, the race for 172 seats, the magic number for a majority, remains uncertain. Let's break down the latest projections. The Conservatives lead, but is it enough? At 177 seats, the Conservative Party of Canada, CPC, emerges as the single largest party, coming remarkably close to the 170-seat majority mark. However, falling just short means they would still need external support to govern effectively. While they may attempt to lead a minority government, the real question is, can they find partners willing to cooperate? The Bloc Québécois has historically been unpredictable in supporting conservative governments, and the Liberals and NDP are unlikely to align with them. This leaves the Conservatives in a delicate position, where even a small shift in seats could determine their fate. Liberal and Bloc Québécois coalition, a strong opposition. A potential Liberal and Bloc Québécois alliance holds 153 seats, a formidable force in Parliament, but still 17 seats short of a majority. The Bloc, focused on Quebec's interests, has historically avoided formal coalition agreements, but they could provide issue-by-issue support to the Liberals. If this partnership solidifies, it could create a strong opposition that challenges the Conservatives on key policy matters, particularly on Quebec-specific issues such as language rights, immigration, and provincial autonomy. A progressive alliance, Liberals, NDP, and Greens. A more left-leaning coalition consisting of the Liberals, NDP, and Greens would bring in 133 seats. This coalition represents a shared vision on issues like climate change, social programs, and healthcare expansion. However, with 133 seats, they are far from the 170-seat majority, making it difficult to govern without additional support. While such an alliance could increase pressure on the Conservatives, it lacks the numbers to form a stable government on its own. The traditional Liberal-NDP partnership. The Liberals and New Democratic have historically worked together in minority governments. With 131 seats, this combination could push for progressive policies. But it still lacks the numbers needed to challenge a conservative-led government. If this coalition were to take shape, they would need to seek external support, possibly from the Bloc or the Greens, to pass legislation and stay in power. A Liberal-Green coalition, too weak to lead? A more unlikely but still possible scenario is a Liberal-Green coalition, which would yield 122 seats. While both parties align on environmental policies and social issues, this coalition would be one of the weakest in terms of seat count. Unless other parties joined in, it would struggle to exert any real power in Parliament. The Liberals alone, a distant shot at power. Finally, the Liberals alone stand at 120 seats, far from the 170-seat majority needed to govern independently. Without coalition partners, they would face a serious challenge in leading the government. Their best bet would be to seek cooperation from multiple parties on a case-by-case basis. But even then, passing legislation would be an uphill battle. Conservatives, the front-runners, but not a lock. The Conservative Party of Canada, CPC, leads the race with a 54% chance of reaching 172 seats. While this gives them the highest probability, it's far from a guarantee. A few key factors, regional swings, voter turnout, and last-minute shifts could determine whether they cross the finish line or fall just short, forcing them into negotiations for support. Conservative Bloc Québécois Alliance, a strong contender? With a 44% probability, a CPC-BQ coalition stands as the second most likely pathway to securing 172 seats. This potential alliance would depend on the Bloc Québécois supporting a conservative-led government, a move that would likely hinge on favorable policies for Quebec. While possible, history suggests the Bloc may hesitate to formally align with the Conservatives for fear of alienating its voter base. Liberal Bloc Québécois Coalition, a long shot. A Liberal Bloc Québécois coalition has a 28% chance of reaching 172 seats. While the numbers suggest some potential, the ideological divide between these two parties makes this an unpredictable scenario. If the Liberals seek bloc support, it would likely come at the cost of significant concessions to Quebec's interests. Conservative-NDP cooperation, an unlikely pairing. A conservative New Democratic coalition has a 16% probability, a far less likely but not impossible scenario. While these two parties stand on opposite ends of the political spectrum on key issues, a pragmatic alliance could emerge if neither side wants a prolonged deadlock. However, the NDP's progressive voter base would likely resist such an alignment. Liberal NDP coalition, a near impossible path. A liberal New Democratic coalition holds just a 1% chance of hitting 172 seats, making it one of the least viable options. Despite some shared policy goals, the sheer gap in seat count means that even with cooperation, they wouldn't have the numbers needed for a stable government. Other coalitions facing steep odds, Liberals, NDP and Greens. 1% chance, not nearly enough to form a strong opposition or government. Liberal-Green alliance, less than 1% chance, making this scenario virtually impossible. Liberals governing alone, LPC, less than 1% chance. With their projected seat count far below the majority threshold, the Liberals would need multiple partners just to remain competitive. So, what does this mean for Canada's future? Will the Conservatives hold strong? Can the Liberals build a winning alliance? Or are we headed for another minority government and weeks of negotiations? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe now for real-time election updates, expert analysis, and exclusive projections. Don't miss a moment of this historic race.